Welcome to the Unwritten Rule. No longer on KCOU 88.1 FM. We're a podcast now.
We broke free.
Relegated.
We've been relegated. We've got soccer and quick hits. I'm gonna force soccer every episode I can. So yeah, welcome into the Bleav version of the Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast. For those who have listened to mine, Kenny, and Payton's voices on KCOU, you all know us well. And for those who are new, welcome. Basically, we're a Mizzou sports podcast. We're going to talk all things Mizzou sports once, the school year and then football season especially starts. We'll have a lot of fun content to bring. We're going to do a bunch of, professional sports talk as well. And we have some fun segments that we've been doing. We used to be a radio show at the University of Missouri on KCOU 88.1 FM. Shout out that station.
They just let anybody on.
They really do. That's how we got started. And yeah, now we've grown into a podcast. So we have some segments we've done on that. So myself, Kenny, and Payton are all class of 2023 graduates of Mizzou. So we've all spent our last 4 years living and breathing Mizzou sports, the good, the bad, and the ugly that is. So yeah, welcome in. And I guess, boys, without further ado, let's dive into it. So we want to start with Mizzou football. Obviously, it's the offseason right now, so there's just, kind of general stuff going on. We have Eli Drinkwitz losing recruits on the recruiting trail. I don't know. I mean, I guess how are we summing up his 2023 offseason? I know we've seen the stuff on Twitter with people posting all of the Mizzou players or the players from the state of Missouri, the high school guys, and where they're going, and it's not Mizzou. So, I mean, what are we thinking? How's the offseason, been for the football team and for Drinkwitz so far?
I wouldn't say it's going all that well when you have to turn off your comments on Twitter. I don't think Drinkwitz has allowed people to reply to him for the last couple of weeks. So not going well there. I mean, it's been like I think it was the first time ever that he's had someone flip on him. I mean, that's the whole thing. That Drinkwitz was flipping recruits in his first 2 years. That 2021 class was one of the best in school history. And then he loses Teone Gray, who's out of the St. Louis area, to Oregon. I mean, that guy came out of nowhere. He's a 4-star offensive lineman. Looked like a pretty big pickup there before he was really getting all this recognition. Oregon stepped in. They definitely have more NIL, maybe more opportunities. And I mean, Oregon has had a lot more success than Mizzou in the last 20 years, or last 10 years at least. So overall, it's not looking good right now for Eli Drinkwitz. And I know there's that extension. We can talk about that for days. But as Payton's going to bring up here in a second, this might be his last season.
Well, I mean, part of the thing with the 2024 class, it's been ugly. There's no way to get around it. There's 2 commits right now. They're both 3 stars. They're about 73rd, I believe, by 247. The end of the day, the 2024 class really probably doesn't matter to Drinkwitz, because if he doesn't win this year, I mean, he's not going to be around for those recruits anyways. I mean, it's going to be do or die this year. He has an advantageous schedule to work with. And it should be his recruits that really lead the charge this year now. I will say you can't also just look at only the high school recruiting. You have to look at how they did in the portal. I think that's a place where Drinkwitz has actually done pretty well for the most part. He got a QB this year after the infamous striking out on Jaden and JT Daniels and Jerry Bohannon last year. This year he got Jake Garcia. It's a true 3-way battle for that quarterback spot, even if he wants you to believe Dylan Leibel's in it too. He's not. You did mention Teone Gray, the D lineman. Him flipping was really it just was ugly. They still have a shot. I'm just taking a look at 247 right now. I mean, Jeremiah McClellan has not committed, but he set his official visits, and Missouri is not one of them, so he won't be going here. Jayson Ross, there's a whole weird thing going on with him. Caleb Redd and David Dossett have not yet committed. The two they ironically have probably their best shot at are Williams Nwaneri. definitely am butchering that. But the D lineman from Lee Summit North, 5-star, who currently is predicted to go to Georgia, and Ryan Wingo, the number 2 recruit in the state, he's currently predicted to go to Georgia. But both of them have official visits in June, and those are pretty massive ones for Drinkwitz, because even though at the end of the day he's going to need to win this year, or he won't even be around to see those recruits, it would look a lot better if he's sitting at 7 wins or so, and he has even just one of those 2 in the bag.
And your last visits, weren't you talking about how you liked if they were the last visit?
I mean,
you go back and forth.
At this point, it really doesn't matter nowadays, but if you're going to be a visit, you probably want to be last. I don't believe they're the last one for Wingo. I'd have to double check that, and I'm not sure where they are for Winery. But if you're gonna, I would assume you'd rather be the one going last.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Drinkwitz is still looking for that above 500 season, but the way he really kind of sells Mizzou to these recruits is that, you're going to play now. I mean, Luther Burden had an opportunity to play at schools like Alabama. He decommitted from Oklahoma. He was in the running to go to Georgia as well. And what really sells to some of these kids is that, you go to Georgia, you're not going to play for 2 years. You're not going to be the primary option, the receiving end. You're not going to be the first guy off the line on defense for your freshman year. And I think that's really what these selling points are for Drinkwitz these next couple weeks as these recruits come in. But it really just comes down to, like as Payton said, if he does get these 2 recruits and he's sitting at 7 wins next year, I think they continue to keep him on. And we can talk about Steve Bieser here in a second, but Desiree Reed-Francois, she didn't hire Drinkwitz. I mean, there's no tie there to him. I mean, she was a part of the extension, and the extension really played into the future of just the SEC, Mizzou in the SEC as a program, and keeping some of these, other guys around on staff. But in the end, if it's not working out, I mean, there's no tie there to Drinkwitz.
I did check Wingo. They are the last visit for Wingo, so they'll have the chance, the hometown team, to make an impression for him. Winery has visits scheduled on 247 until September, so that one may not be over for a while. But those are 2 really big ones. Drinkwitz talked, I remember in particular, his first year or 2, it was a big priority for him to lock down the borders. I don't really think that's a huge deal in recruiting today. But now, I mean, they got an NIL law passed that allows high school players in Missouri to make money off NIL the second they sign with a state college. And Drinkwitz doesn't have anything else really loaded up and ready to go from other states. So those 2 really could be the difference for him.
Yeah. You talked about the wanting to win now part too. He's lost some transfers, right? Too. There was the NC State running back who went to Kentucky. He visited Mizzou. There was Derek McClendon from Colorado. He visited Mizzou. And then
from Florida State, but yeah, he went to Colorado.
Or yeah, he went to Florida State. Now he went to Colorado. He visited Mizzou. And then we had with recruiting as well, we had Daniel Kalen, right, who decommitted and then went to Nebraska a day later. He already had the hype video ready. I mean, he had already known he was going to go.
The thing about that, I don't think Drink has done a bad job in the portal necessarily. He did get 2 offensive linemen that are expected to start, in Marcellus Johnson and Cameron Johnson. Both were all conference. Johnson in the American, and Johnson, or they're both Johnson. Sorry, Marcellus Johnson in the MAC for Eastern Michigan. Cameron Johnson in the American for Houston. The one area I would say they probably needed to address a little heavier was D-line. They lost a couple there. They lost McClendon, like you said. They lost Ukwu from James Madison. But overall, I wouldn't be too concerned about the portal. They were never going to get better in the pass rush after losing DJ Coleman and McGuire, and even Trajan Jeffcoat, even though he had 1 sack last year. It that position was always going to get weaker. I still wouldn't expect that to really be an issue. This is the best roster Drinkwitz has had in his time here, and now it's time to really show that.
On that topic of Daniel Kaelin, I mean, it made all the sense in the world that he would land back at Nebraska. I mean, they lost a 5-star recruit to Georgia a few days earlier. That spot opened, and the guy who was heavily recruiting Daniel Kaelin at Mizzou and is not even at Mizzou anymore. So, I mean, it was I jokingly text Payton right after Daniel Kaelin decommitted that he was Boise State bound, joining up with Bush Hamdan there. If Bush Hamdan had taken that job with the Chiefs, maybe Daniel Kaelin would have skipped college altogether. But it made the most sense in the world. And the Mizzou Tigers, they have options at quarterback moving forward, and Gabari Johnson's coming in as well, and a dual threat there.
I just thought I had to mention it because it was so funny that he had the hype video ready, and it was also like you guys watched it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was like
it was really cringy.
Yeah, they show it was
Didn't
like
it.
It was like 2017 trip to a Nebraska game with friends.
first Nebraska game.
Yeah,
and then it just skips from like 2019 to 2023.
Yeah,
and it's like, what were you doing for those 4 years?
I was like looking at him. I was like, this is like a little kid, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's this dude.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you can't really do a lot about a guy that very clearly wants to be at Nebraska so bad he wasn't offended by being their backup option after Raiola went to Georgia. Not much Drink can do about that. And at the end of the day, you don't need a starter a cycle at quarterback. You do want to net a quarterback every recruiting cycle, but it's not the end of the world.
And there's other options too there. I mean, at quarterback, there's other offers on the table. The one thing that I would point out is Daniel Kaelin was invited to the Elite 11 4 days ago. Mizzou had a quarterback that was invited to the Elite 11.
Not a good history for Mizzou.
He plays at Alcorn State now, so real good program there in the Elite 11.
Just on that, I mean, the 2024 QB options, they immediately offered Aiden Glover, I Bleav, who is starting to gain some traction. They still have Sam Kaiser right down the street, who has 2 Power 5 offers right now, and Mizzou's gonna watch him throw at a camp in Lindenwood and a 7-on-7. So that's one I'd keep an eye out for. But I'm not worried about the 2024 rankings right now. Mm-hmm. It's ugly. Like, you don't want to be losing the one guy in your backyard to UNLV, to Barry Odom is ugly. That is not a good look. Melvin Laster. I know I Bleav it was Power Mizzou said he probably wasn't at take right now. Not good optics either way when you look at what is going on with the rest of the recruiting.
Yeah. So, in other words, it's a focus like on the present for Eli Drinkwitz, which, I think is very fair, like you said, Payton, because he is firmly on the hot seat. Kenny, you said, we're going to talk about a firing of another coach who was not a Desiree Reed-Francois hire, who is an AD that has not been afraid to put her foot down on any of this, when results aren't going their way. Do we have any other portal stuff? Otherwise, I know now their first game of the season got flexed. We have more Thursday night football. We had Louisiana Tech last year, and now South Dakota's a Thursday night game. I don't know. I mean, it's South Dakota. What does that change? Kenny, I wanted to ask you about this because you covered the team last year, and it was like a gauntlet week, right? When you were trying to report, but it's like the days are more crunched because it's leading up to a Thursday night game. Did they approach that any differently?
Yeah, so Thursday was technically trying to remember. I think it was Thursday was Saturday, Wednesday was Friday, and then Thursday was Tuesday. So it was like everything was pushed back, and we asked Drinkwitz about that, like, how does that work? And he was like, I just pushed my calendar back, and we just it was just hard to comprehend, but he just made it sound like it was just everything was 2 days behind, and they had extra time for the next week. And I mean, it didn't work out against Kansas State in the end, but it was kind of tough for me. I think I had the hardest part of the whole weekend because I didn't get to sleep that night. I had to go take a flight back to Houston the next morning. So, I mean, that late game on Thursday is kind of brutal, but it gives you the whole weekend. I'm on Payton's side with this one. I think it should become a new tradition that Mizzou opens every year on a Thursday. makes all the sense in the world. Just kind of take the, get some spotlight there, and I think that'll be good for the Tigers.
Yeah, no, this is one thing I've been pretty impressed with Desiree so far in her time on the job. Mizzou, I remember last year was scheduled to open with Middle Tennessee State on the road. That is not SEC school behavior. So just little things like that, getting the Memphis game moved to St. Louis for a neutral site game. I think that was really cool. This definitely, I think, should be a tradition to keep up as long as she's here, especially if you're not going to schedule like a big marquee opponent week one. Just give yourself a free primetime slot. Give the student. I know it can be a little more inconvenient for fans that live in St. Louis and Kansas City that have to commute to the game. I think that's more of a thing. I think giving this one more to the students, just letting them get a game in before they have to go home for Labor Day or have to just go home for Labor Day. Easiest decision in the world, gives you a free primetime slot because you're an SEC school. Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. I hope that it's something that continues.
Yeah. I like the primetime point because I think that's fun. It's like you see them a little bit on, like, for people who can't make it to the game, at least they can watch it. There's a national TV thing there, and yeah, I think you make a good point. And it's South Dakota State. It shouldn't matter, or just South Dakota.
Just South Dakota.
It shouldn't matter too much. Did they win something last year?
Nope.
No? Okay. I may be thinking of something.
I think
else.
South Dakota gave Kansas its first win at home in a while.
Okay.
That was 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah, I remember I was at a Royals game when it happened.
Yep, I was there with you.
Yeah.
I know the hot dogs.
I had a lot of hot dogs.
How many hot dogs?
9.
Like 9. It was dollar dog night.
Dollar dog
Kenny had
had
9 hot dogs.
One for each inning.
You're
Nick Castellanos was on the screen because they were showing a clip from a Phillies game, and it was pouring rain. We were sitting at the top of the state at Kauffman Stadium, just sheltering up there, and it was just pouring. And they were showing Castellanos up there, and right when he hit the ball, he had a home run. Big tornado came in, took us all out.
Yeah, that's tough.
We're the first podcast on the Bleav network that's being broadcast from the afterlife.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
except for me, I wasn't there.
Better Bleav.
Disclaimer: that is not a true statement.
We are not in the afterlife. We're not in the podcast
very much
purgatory.
live.
Yeah. Do we have any more Mizzou football stuff, or should we talk? The other news that broke today?
No, we got to do SEC mics.
Or I guess yesterday. Oh yeah, we got to do SEC mics. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
So we had rankings. So, SEC Mike on Twitter tweeted because ESPN, or not ESPN, EA Sports is making another NCAA football game. They're bringing it back in 2024. So SEC Mike tweeted every SEC team's highest rated player. Couple 99s in there. Mizzou, the highest rated player was Tyron Hopper, who's the linebacker, Florida transfer, 92 rated. And you boys both have some disagreement with this in terms of who it should have been.
I just don't believe that he's probably the best. I know he grades well on PFF. He's a really good player. I'm not going to sell Tyron Hopper short. I feel like people kind of ride some of these games that he's played. He's had some very outstanding games last year. I mean, Louisiana Tech, he looked like one of the best players in the world with 6
like
tackles.
A first-round pick.
Yeah, with that interception, the 6 tackles, really just went quiet against Kansas State. Picked it up against Auburn and Arkansas last year. Was one of the best players on the field those 2 nights and the 2 days. But overall, I just don't know if I'm swinging with Tyron Hopper. I mean, Chris Abrams-Drain might have been drafted last year, and I think that he was probably be the highest overall for this Mizzou team.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do agree. I am glad to see that Mizzou had a player on SEC Mike's rankings. And Tyron Hopper is great. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a draft pick for sure. As long as there's no massive drop off this year. I have a hard time believing he's the best player on the team. When I think of Missouri's defensive MVPs, I think of Chris Abrams-Drain. I'm a big Darius Robinson fan. I think he's fantastic. Ennis Rakestraw would be up there for me. I like Carly's a lot. I really like the dynamic of him and Charleston back there doing different things, but being a perfect tandem. I'd probably put Tyron Hopper at second or third on the defense. Which
What about
would
Harrison
make
Mevis?
No.
He's the best kicker in the SEC.
You beat me to it.
He needs to not miss extra points and chip shot field goals.
He's
Those are hard, Payton.
Yeah.
I mean, those are tough.
You get in your own head.
Yeah.
Did I tell you when I went on Furrow?
Bullshit.
I went on Furrow like one of our last days at Mizzou, and I was standing at the 35-yard line. I was just like, I can make this. How does he ever miss?
I mean, his field goal against Auburn was closer than that by
It's true.
25 yards.
Also,
And,
Kenny, you say you were glad to have a player on SEC Mike's list. That does beg the question, or Payne said it. He just picked one from every team. It was just the highest player from each team.
Oh,
so there's 12 players on here. Do you think
there's 14 teams?
There's 14 players on there?
Well, there's 14 teams. I mean, there's no Vanderbilt guy on there. There's no.
Oh, so it wasn't every SEC team.
Yeah.
So he lied.
Way to
Never mind.
research, Knowlton.
It's. I did research.
He only has 10 on his list.
That's fake news.
So those are his top 10 SEC players.
All right.
Yeah.
Tyron Hopper's very good. I don't think he's that good.
He just said
I am
it was
a big
the best
fan.
player on each team. His tweet is misleading. Fake news.
No, so he only rated one player per team. So
that is dumb.
But he just put the 10 on there. He didn't show the other four
Why didn't
So
schools.
he just took his top
lame.
10 on different. That's a confusing way to do it.
Yeah.
SEC
He didn't fit
money.
the graphic.
Yeah. That's not a unwritten rule graphics department maneuver. That's all I'm going to say. Speaking of PFF, we had an article from Max. Shout out Max Chadwick, friend of the show. Will be on in the future. He did a similar thing. He wrote an article about which players just in college football that he think would deserve a 99 rating. First of all, I really like this explanation he gave. This is good. This is good knowing your audience in case you have someone who's never played Madden before. In sports video games, players are given a 0 through 100 rating based on how good they are in real life. The best players are usually given a 99 overall rating. For example, Travis Kelce, Trent Williams, Aaron Donald, Myles Garrett. I just think that. Good job, Max.
It's not even true.
Explained it.
Players don't get 100 ratings in Madden.
Not in Madden.
Yeah, that's he typed out 0 to 100. It's false.
Real quick.
I think in FIFA.
Real
they
quick.
get, anyway, besides the point. And then
His
Kenny,
list was good though. I did read through it. I didn't agree with Blake Corum, but that was it.
Yeah, so it has Caleb Williams, Blake Corum from Michigan, Marvin Harrison Jr. from Ohio State, Brock Bowers from Georgia, Joe Alt from Notre Dame is a tackle, and no Brady Cook. So
No Brady Cook. What was up with that?
I don't understand that, Max.
Max told us he's going to have a podcast where he dissects 3 quarterbacks that could start for Mizzou this year.
Yeah.
Possibly 4 if you ask Eli Drinkwitz. And we haven't seen that yet. And he didn't even give Brady Cook a 99.
Max should dissect that on our podcast.
Yeah.
I also need him to talk about Evan Stewart again. I need to see if he remembers that. When I was randomly asking him about the A&M receiver room and their PFF grades, but
he doesn't forget.
He doesn't forget those things.
No.
Okay, should we shift to? Let's shift to Bieser, the other news today. So I mentioned it in the little intro. We had breaking news earlier today. Steve Bieser, Mizzou's baseball coach, isn't he the only? Is it the 7th coach in program history?
Something crazy.
I was looking like that. They've only had 7 coaches since 1930. The Tigers have. But Mizzou baseball parted ways with Steve Bieser. They were 30-24 last season. He's been the coach for the last 7 seasons. And I guess, boys, your reactions, thoughts first and foremost, and then we could talk about some of the things with this baseball program outside of just the coach that maybe need to get fixed going forward. And this segues to softball too, but just first reactions of Bieser getting fired.
I mean, I was kind of a little bit surprised that it just happened. I know that another losing season in the SEC and overall just not the best play in general. I know injuries kind of piled up there, and I mean, compared to where Mizzou stands in the SEC, we can talk about this. There's no money going to this team, and it's a non-revenue sport. I mean, you don't have to put as much into it as if you don't want to. Steve Bieser is, he's not a Desiree Reed Francois hiring. Max Scherzer, the best Mizzou baseball player of all time, wasn't a big Steve Bieser fan, but these players liked him. Peter Zimmerman, who we'll have on this podcast at some point, he's talked before about how much he likes Steve Bieser. He just Bleav that Steve Bieser didn't have the right stuff to be an SEC winning coach. And at the end of the day, I don't think he really did either. I mean, there are a lot of things that people can argue about how the way Steve Bieser managed that team, kind of played some small ball here and there, maybe mismanaged some pitchers in the end. But I don't think it was necessarily a fair thing for Steve Bieser. At the end of the day, he's not getting these things that other SEC schools are, but it's good to just kind of, wipe the surface clean and just kind of move forward with a new coach and kind of put more funding towards this team if you wanted to compete in the SEC.
Yeah, the bottom line, I kind of struggle with this because I think, and Kendall Rogers of D1 Baseball, who's like the go-to, he's the Adam Schefter of college baseball, essentially, kind of agreed with this. Mizzou is probably a team that would have been in a regional had they not gotten killed with injuries. I mean, Neubeck went down, Murphy missed time, and then they kind of had to rush him back. Ian Losey was down. They just lost so many. They lost Carter Rustad after one appearance. Just a really bad rash of injuries. And ultimately, you could blame that on Bieser's strength and conditioning program, but I would counter that with Dave Matter revealed this in one of his Mizzou chats. Mizzou doesn't even have a full-time strength and conditioning coach in baseball. That kind of shows just the lack of resources Mizzou has by SEC standards. I mean, no program probably suffered more from the move from the Big 12 to the SEC than the baseball program. I mean, their spending was probably on par with everyone else in the Big 12. The SEC is just another world. So I get it. Steve Bieser, I don't think was necessarily the best manager in the world. I do feel like it's a tad bit unfair to him. And I think if you're moving on from Steve Bieser, you need to bring in a new coach with a new commitment to spending more on the baseball team. I mean, they need things like they're the only team in the SEC, I Bleav, that doesn't charter flights for the team. They spend, I Bleav, 46% of the budget of the top teams in the league. There are managers in the SEC that make more than MLB managers, and Steve Bieser was dead last in salary. It is just not a well-equipped program right now. And I mean, there's so many improvements that probably do need to be made. But I mean, we saw it. Mizzou can be competitive in baseball, but they need a little bit more just support from the athletic department, I'd say. Whoever the new coach is, I mean, it's still an SEC program, so I have no doubt Mizzou will have no shortage of candidates. But if there's not a renewed commitment to funding the program, they're just going to be back in the same spot they are right now.
There's a couple things that I would note too, just like how far Mizzou is behind in the SEC, along with like maybe some issues with not having like an indoor facility for batting practice. Mizzou they start their season on the road. They play in Florida, they play in Alabama, they play all these away games because they can't play at home. I mean, that's a big issue for where they stand in the middle of the country. I mean, they don't have the ability to play a lot of home games early on because of weather. On top of that, the indoor facilities is something that Peter Zimmerman, who used to play, who was a former Mizzou DH and corner infielder, he mentioned, they could take the old indoor football facility and turn that into a baseball facility. They can turn it into something for the softball team. Another thing that Mizzou is behind in the times is that they don't have a turf outfield. I mean, that's a big thing in the SEC right now. More than 50% of the teams in the SEC don't have a turf outfield, and that's something that Peter Zimmerman mentioned that Steve Bieser would have wanted for this program. I mean, there's a multitude of things, and the travel constraints is just one of the craziest things I've ever heard for Mizzou baseball. Is at one time they were playing Texas A&M, and they had a travel curfew coming up. They had to result in a tie because they had to leave at a certain time after the game, so the game ended in a tie because Texas A&M was stalling with their pitchers being hurt. They didn't have enough options to put people on the mound. So they knew that Mizzou had these travel constraints, and they just forced it into a tie, and Mizzou didn't get the win.
Wait, what were the travels like? They were gonna miss like a charter bus or something if they?
So they have chartered flights, buses, and it's just everything's on a certain schedule. So if the game was dragging on, it was suspended for a second, came back, and they just didn't have the time to do it. So Mizzou had to end in a tie instead of a win.
When was this?
This was in. Let me see if I can find it. It was in it. I did an so Texas A&M 2019 is what Peter Zimmerman said.
Yeah, that is wild. And yeah, like you guys both hit on it. Payton, you mentioned like what Dave said. He tweeted today too. Just reading this tweet, no matter whom Mizzou baseball hires next, the administration / program has to address / upgrade NIL support, facilities, travel accommodations, and staffing. Otherwise, today's decision was just a kicking a can down a long road to nowhere. So, I mean, that hits on everything you guys all said. And it extends to softball as well. And just like, kind of summarizing, softball season ended at the hands of Cal in the Oklahoma Regional. They barely made the SEC tournament, but that's a program too that like had some success, especially while we were there, and had a little bit of investment. But baseball and softball both like just seem to be severely lagging behind the conference competition, which is horrible in the SEC, where those two sports are two of the best sports the conference offers. So you're lacking behind there. Yeah, it doesn't really matter who you hire, whether it's Bieser or, like Payton said, no shortage of candidates that they're going to have next. Yeah, there's like that is pretty wild that like they can't even get like a scheduled flight to wait for them to be done with their game, and they're literally throwing wins away because they have to make their plane on time. No Power 5 nor especially SEC schools should have that. So it seems highlighting a bigger issue.
I will say that it's not like Mizzou needs to like make the program a priority or anything.
Right.
I mean, it's just not realistic to expect from Mizzou. I mean, it's not a sport that's ever going to make them money, so it's unfair to really think it'll be a big top of the list priority for them. But I mean, just making just basic accommodations like travel being easier, finish the outfield. There's half a turf. It's half turf, half actual field. Pick one and do it. Okay. I mean, it's very basic stuff the team probably needs to to make probably a world of difference. And hopefully we see that. I would hope firing Bieser is an indication that they're going to take the program a bit more serious, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for them moving forward. So, Mizzou's season ended at the hands of Auburn. They were the 12th seed in the SEC tournament. Barely made that. Had to have results go their way elsewhere,
and it was a big success that they made it.
And yeah, that's so. I mean, as much as it is like, you can maybe build off of that, and then that can let you, like Payton said, it's not going to be a priority like the way a lot of like some of the revenue sports are, but like put some more money into it. We'll see. We knew a person who worked in facilities. Should we just have him sneakily go turf the field himself?
All by himself.
Just all by himself.
This is funny though, talking about turf fields, is at my high school I heard they got a turf outfield, but they did a pattern, the checkered pattern you see. So they did a checkered pattern of turf, but one turf is like an inch higher than the other one. And so the turf doesn't match, and you can't mow over turf to make it even. So they have to order new turf to make it match because it's two different shades of green.
But one of the shades is like longer, you're saying?
Yeah, so it's supposed to be the same length, but it came out different lengths.
It came out longer. That's funny. That's funny. Okay. Let's do quick hits. This is a segment for those who are new. We did this on KCOU. So we'll just run through it. We have a couple like just quick hitting segments that we do. We start with Jersey of the Week, and Kenny, go.
Yeah, so Jersey of the Week
with it too.
It does have a debate. I mean, this is something I keep seeing everywhere. My Jersey of the Week is Carmelo Anthony. Finally announced his retirement. I know some people were like, "Oh, did he feel like he already retired?" Officially announced it. Made a big deal about how it's his son's turn to take the torch in the Anthony family. Carmelo Anthony, going to be a Hall of Famer someday. He's 9th all time in points scored, 28,289. And some people think, so my Jersey of the Week for Carmelo Anthony is Syracuse because he won a national title there, won the only national title for Jim Boeheim. But what teams are going to retire his number? And I'm really leaning on both the Knicks and the Nuggets retire both of them. I just don't see how you don't retire a guy who spent most of his best years with those two teams and then finished 9th all time in points.
Are we including Syracuse? Is his number retired there?
Yeah, his number's already retired at Syracuse.
Okay, then
Sorry, retired.
That makes sense. Should be retired at Oak Hill, where he went to high school.
Yeah.
And it should be one day when Jokic also retires, him and Melo should probably both have their names on the jersey up in the rafters one day. I can't get there with the Knicks. He didn't win anything. The Knicks are so storied that his jersey being up there would be awkward to me. Blazers, no. Lakers, no.
I was gonna say no. Blazers might as well. Just throw another number in the rafters.
Hawks, sure.
Yeah, why not?
Bulls, yes. No, I would say just the Nuggets, probably.
I'm going back and forth. I think the Knicks got to do it. It's like a culture thing.
What did he do?
What did he make?
He's never missed an All-Star game.
Did he win anything?
They made the semifinals.
There was nothing there for him.
They made the semifinals. He didn't
like Eastern Conference.
There's no legacy there other than he was fun for a few years. I don't think you can do anything with that.
When you think of Carmelo Anthony, what team do you think of?
The Nuggets.
The Knicks.
I do not think the Nuggets. I think the Knicks.
The Nuggets.
He's a Knick. You were 10 years old when he stopped playing for the Nuggets.
Yep.
You do not rember those years. You did not watch the NBA that passionately.
The only thing I can remember
who won
him
the finals
doing,
in 2009.
That would have been the year. That was the year the Magic played the Lakers, right?
Oh yeah, he got it.
Yeah. So
look, everyone knows that because of LeBron facing the Magic that year in the conference.
The Magic got swept. Jameer Nelson carried Dwight Howard to a finals. Yada yada.
That's true.
No, I mean the only thing I can think of Melo doing with the Knicks was hitting the 2 shots on Christmas, I believe it was against the Bulls.
That was.
And then he goes like this. He hits you with the
woohoo. He didn't win anything. He didn't win an MVP. He was just an all-star a couple times with them. He didn't do anything.
I think this requires some deeper research for me to formally make a decision because I feel like there are other players out there that like they maybe didn't do a whole lot of winning, but yes, like they're just a really iconic player and that spent a good chunk of their career with their.
Here's the thing: team. He didn't win a lot with the Nuggets either. But the Nuggets have so much less history than the Knicks. Like, you can put his name up there. Like, who else are you putting up there for the Nuggets right now?
Nobody. I mean, there's no one else active besides Jokic and maybe Murray if Murray continues this.
And who are you putting up there for the Knicks?
Jeremy Lin?
No one else. Yeah, Jeremy Lin, who had a good month of basketball.
Yeah.
Mari Stoudemire.
You can put up
Tyson
a lot
Chandler?
of others. I think
J.R.
of
Smith?
I can remember more Amari Stoudemire moments with the Knicks than Carmelo moments.
Tim Hardaway Jr. when he got dunked on by Giannis.
Yep.
Would you retire Chris Bosh's number with the Heat?
On the Raptors.
Would you retire Chris Bosh's number at the Heat?
Didn't the Heat do it?
Didn't the Heat what? Retire his number already?
Retire it. I think the Heat.
Yeah, and he did it. He was the 3rd best player on his team. I mean, he
did win a chip.
He won titles
with the best player of all time on his team and Dwayne Wade.
I don't know what you want me to say.
Carmelo Anthony had a better career than Chris Bosh, and with his team than Chris Bosh had with the Heat. I think Carmelo Anthony's getting his number retired with the Knicks.
The brands here, the Knicks are a brand. Like
they haven't been a brand for 20 plus years.
Yes,
they have not. They have not been good at basketball since 1994.
They are like the Lakers. No matter how bad they are, they're gonna get talked about.
They're not the Lakers. They're not the Lakers.
They're not on the Lakers level. They're still a Lakers type team.
I will feel
they lost that.
Payton, if you're talking brands too, especially in the last 20 years, Carmelo Anthony is like arguably the face of that brand.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they were bad.
He's the face you think of during an era where the Knicks were just terrible.
And he was the best player. He was the only one who wanted to play there. No one else wanted to play for the Knicks.
Knicks should retire Evan Fournier's number.
I don't really see
Julius Randle.
I don't really see a scenario where he gets his number retired up there. I don't.
Is Chris Paul getting his retired number by the Clippers?
Should we make this? I'm going to make this. I'm going to make this a forfeit. I'm going to write this down. What should have to happen if he doesn't retire, or if the Knicks don't retire his number? What does Kenny have to do? And if they do retire the number, what does Payton have to do?
I'll get a Stay Mellow tattoo on my butt. if his number doesn't get retired by the Knicks.
I am not gonna do that. I'll admit on the podcast I was wrong. Is that good enough?
No,
Fine.
that's not good
No,
enough.
that's
You got to
not
do an
good.
actual bet.
You gotta do something.
I'm not betting on this. I didn't. This
we'll
wasn't
come
my
back to that.
idea.
I saw a video somewhere that someone asked little kids who Melo was, and they said LaMelo Ball.
Yeah.
That's
And
terrible.
you're arguing for that guy's name to be in the rafters of the Knicks.
Those are 8-year-olds. They don't know
Ask an
anything.
8-year-old if they know more about Julius Randle or Carmelo Anthony right now. I think the answer is going to make.
They're not
going to
say Julius Randle.
I think they're going to say Julius
No,
Randle.
no little kid knows Julius Randle. The only reason people know these little kids know LaMelo Ball is because of LaMelo Ball's dad.
Carmelo Anthony is the Julius Randle of the mid 2010s. Yeah, I'm going to say that. There you go.
That's not. That's not.
We've spent way too long on this, by the way.
Carmelo scored the 9th most points in NBA history. He's getting his number retired by the Knicks.
I don't think he is. I really don't.
I'll think of a forfeit and write it down. I'm going to make a bet out of that. All right, Peyton, go.
Oh, my jersey of the week is going to be a lot less controversial. It's going to be Jayson Tatum. Chaminade, of course, he went to high school in St. Louis. Why didn't he come to Mizzou? Who knows? Lots of things were going right for the basketball program in 2016. So it's really a mystery. But Tatum, of course, the star of the Boston Celtics, who are about to become the first ever team to come back from down 3-0 to win a series. That's it. That was my reasoning for picking him. Chaminade jersey would be cool.
It's Chaminade. You say it with an SH. You don't say it with a CH.
I wouldn't know. My Park Hill South never played him. So
my St. Thomas Eagles didn't play him either.
Yeah, you went to high school in Texas. Knowlton, what's your jersey of the week?
It's been a little bit of time since we did a show, including the NBA draft lottery that happened like a couple weeks ago. So I did that from my jerseys based on that. I'm doing Victor Wembanyama to the Spurs. The Spurs won the NBA draft lottery, so they get the rights to draft the person who Adrian Wojnarowski thinks is the greatest prospect in sports history. So
Kobe Brown.
There you go. Yeah. He'll be in the same draft class as Kobe Brown. That's what he'll be remembered for.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to get on the bus type train? Just that he's going to be a bust?
No.
Just
I feel like if we call it now, we'll be the ones that people remember.
Yeah.
I'm going to say he's a bust. I'm going to say he's never going to win a title. He's never going to be first team All-NBA more than 4 times.
I'll go controversial here. He is going to be the star of the team while that makes Greg Popovich retire. Ignore Greg Popovich's age. That's my hot take. Greg Popovich will retire while coaching Victor Wembanyama.
Peyton, if Victor Wembanyama plays 5 seasons for the Spurs and only advances to the Western Conference semifinals once, but then also scores 30,000 points and is 5th in all-time in scoring, would they retire his number?
No.
Okay.
He didn't win anything there.
Oh, so
he didn't win anything there.
So you think he's a bust too?
He didn't win anything there, and they're gonna have Manu, Parker, and Duncan, and they have Robinson. They have way more history than the Nuggets do. And the Knicks are in the same. The Knicks are in the same category.
All right, enough. Kenny, do you have a spelling bee?
Yeah, I got one set up. Actually, it's actually going to be players who've had their players. Yeah, you can't cheat. Players who've had their numbers retired by the Knicks. Because I'm going to die on this hill. The most recent number retirement from the New York Knicks is Patrick Ewing.
Wow, that makes sense.
Yeah, there's no history on this team.
Relevant.
No history on this team.
That shows they have some standards for retiring their numbers.
They've won 2 NBA titles.
They play in New York. They play in the Garden, dude. They're a brand.
They've won 2 NBA titles. Okay, the first name is going to be Walt Frazier.
Easy.
Jack, you go first.
Oh, wow, we're switching it up.
Yeah.
Goes first now.
This is the one segment, by the way, that I was always nervous when we were on FCC licensed airways that I would swear during. So now I don't have to be worried about it when I mess it up and can just drop a curse word to vent. Walt Frazier, WALT. Oh, I always mess this part up.
If you misspell Frazier, then Carmelo Anthony is officially not getting his number retired.
FRA.
Yes.
Z.
Yes.
IER.
There you go.
Okay. Thank
See, it wasn't all
you,
that
Lord.
hard. Willis Reed,
Not
Payton.
now.
WILLISREED.
Correct. Jack Dick McGuire.
DICK. I feel like I don't want to overthink McGuire.
Oh my god.
MC. Wait.
Oh my gosh.
MCG.
There you go.
UIRE.
Correct.
Okay.
Payton. Patrick Ewing.
PATRICKEWING.
All right, last one. We're gonna do a fifth one this time. Jack Knowlton, Carmelo Anthony.
CARMELO ANTHONY. Anthony.
Oh,
I'm
you
gonna
know
write-
what? He has NY in his last name. I think
So they should retire his jersey.
I think
New
I
York.
changed
He's
mine.
from New York. He went home, played in
Mhm.
Syracuse.
I think
All right.
that is totally part of it. I'm on Kenny's side with this for what it's worth.
There we go.
That's
2-1.
fine.
All right, we're gonna ride this banana boat into the best beat of the week. I got Heat. The Heat and the Celtics. Game 7 tomorrow night. So it'll be Monday. We're recording on a Sunday. You'll hear us on a Monday. I got Heat plus 7.5 from Bet Online, and this is my reasoning. And it's probably the best reasoning you'll see out there on why you should do this.
Mm-hmm.
But don't do it if it doesn't work. So the Red Sox won Game 7 of the 2004 LCS, 10-3 against the Yankees. They won by 7 runs, which was the greatest series comeback of all time. The Celtics, also from Boston, can do a similar thing Monday night, coming back from down 0-3 in the series. Celtics are currently 7.5-point favorites over the Heat. That's 7. So the Celtics, if they hit 7 more points than the Heat, that's 7 runs in baseball. I know it doesn't go like that evenly, but I'm taking Heat 7.5 plus 7.5 if history repeats itself. Book it.
Wow.
I really looked into that one. I was driving and I looked into it.
I'm gonna follow that one up with Celtics minus 7.5. Because I don't know. I know Eric Spoelstra is, like, besides Popovich, probably the best coach in the league. There's no coming back from the way they lost, and for that reason, I think the Celtics run away with it.
So I want to do better at keeping track of these than I did when we were on the air. So I have a tracker. So we're going to keep everyone's record as we keep going, see who the best, the person you should really, throw your money towards, like the Charles Barkley parlays, but it's just with us. That said,
Well,
I don't have
a parlay.
I don't have, yeah, it's not because it's Kenny versus Payton, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like which one between the three of us. That said, I don't have a real bet. I just really wanted to talk about this, so I've spin zoned it into my best beat of the week. I've got Brian Hoyer. I'll set my own odds, plus 300 to start as the Raiders quarterback for Game 1 of the 2023 NFL season. This is because Jimmy Garoppolo failed a physical for the Raiders, which means if he does not pass it, the Raiders can let him go and get rid of his contract for nothing, which means Jimmy Garoppolo will not have a job. It will also mean the Raiders will not have a quarterback after going from possibility of Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. Now they might be stuck with Brian Hoyer, and I think they will be. Book it. There's no real odds. I made them up. So
yeah, you won't find that one anywhere.
You won't find that one anywhere, but you can find it in the Jack Knowlton Sportsbook.
Nothing wrong with Brian Hoyer. Got a nice shiny head, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And
Reliable.
in the league, wow.
I wish it was still Jarrett Stidham, but he went to the Broncos.
Okay, it's Sean East's main bird of the week.
That's my
Still got
main
it.
bird.
Still the dirty bird of the week. We'll figure out the main bird later on.
Yeah.
Mine is DeAndre Hopkins. Bill O'Brien finally won a trade, and this is the biggest win of his career. The Cardinals released DeAndre Hopkins this week, and the one thing I wanted to note about this, he's the dirty bird. The Texans players and former players are kind of being also pretty dirty about this. Titus Howard, Laramie Tunsil have been pretty active on social media. They kind of tweet like they're college cornerbacks. They're like, "Hey, yo, what are you guys doing? You want to come to the H? You want to come back, DeAndre?" Overall, just kind of like some cringy activity from those two guys. And I mean, JJ Watt's gonna hype up his former teammate.
Recruit, man. Gotta
Yeah,
recruit.
they're recruiting.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're
the Texans
out
could lose a
here.
draft pick. This is tampering. Is all I'm saying.
Fair enough. My dirty bird of the week: Nolan Arenado and Wilson Contreras. No secret that Mizzou's least favorite baseball team has been struggling this year. These two in particular this week at one point were a combined in an 0 for 40 stretch. I believe Nolan got a hit today, so he broke that. But it's been very ugly for the Cardinals and very ugly for those two in particular. Don't know who could have seen the Contreras one coming. That's just shocking.
William better.
I would agree.
He looks like Justin Fields.
Does
He
he?
does.
He does.
Fair. My dirty bird of the week belongs to Eric Lewis. If you don't know who Eric Lewis is, you could also refer to the Twitter account, or I guess it's probably deleted now, at Cutliff Blair. That, of course, has been revealed to be Eric Lewis's burner. Eric Lewis is an NBA referee. He has apparently been on Twitter using a burner to defend himself when people have called his refereeing bad. There's a bunch of screenshots of this. It's now leaked. Eric Lewis hasn't, I don't think, said anything. I don't really know what kind of trouble he can get in, but I really, really hope this is true for Scott Foster. I really hope Scott Foster has like a I don't know what would Scott Foster's burner be called?
I hate Chris Paul.
Oh, yeah.
There
I
you
was
go.
going to think of something like that.
No, it'd be the opposite because people don't want to think he's him. It'd be like Chris Paul.
I love Chris Paul.
Yeah, Chris Paul burn. It'd be like Chris Paul defenders,
Mhm.
Hoodie Paul.
Hoodie
Hoodie
Paul,
Paul.
Lake Show Paul.
Yeah, when I first saw this, I thought it was like one of those things where people like just found in an account that was weird and were like, "Oh, it's Eric Lewis," but the NBA is actually investigating it, so
Yeah,
it might be real.
and he's I connected to Birds because he's probably ref the Hawks before.
Probably. LeBron tweeted this Eric Lewis poop emoji true, and then the thinking one.
Huh?
I
Yeah.
did see that.
The roar.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what LeBron hit
hey,
him
you got a
with.
dog noise on that soundboard?
No, I don't.
So, best thing you learned this week, Payton.
Best thing I learned this week: Markus Golden, a Missouri Tiger from 2012 to 2014. He's back in the league. He's a Steeler. He loves steel working. He loves Pittsburgh. He loves Hines Ward. Yeah, I didn't learn a lot this week. So Markus Golden, MIZSTEELERS.
Good job, Markus Golden.
My best thing I learned this week is actually happened today, recording on Sunday. Jose Abreu, the Astros first baseman, hit his first home run of the season. Only took roughly 2 months to do it. But good on him. He sprinted around the bases and then slid into the dugout in the Oakland Coliseum. Next time he came up, the pitcher plunked him in the shoulder, the fastball. So I don't think he liked that one very much. The home plate umpire gave a warning to the Oakland pitcher in the Oakland dugout. The A's lost 10-1. So, good move there.
When he slid into the dugout, did he like knock over a railing and like break a bunch of
No,
stuff?
he slid into home plate.
He slid
into home.
He did not slide into home plate. He slid into the dugout. No,
Yeah, and
I didn't see that part.
And then he
There's
knocked
no
over
railing.
a rusting railing because that stadium is in tatters.
There's no railings in the Oakland Coliseum.
Oh, even better. Yeah. No, everyone just has to risk it.
Those were already broken.
Vegas Athletics. Best thing I learned this week. This is our soccer segment. I'm going to talk about Luton Town. They've kind of taken over Twitter because of their stadium. It's like super tiny. You literally have to go through a house to get like inside it. They are getting promoted from the Championship to the Premier League in England. They have become the promotion for them makes them the first team to go from what's called the non-league. So there are 4 professional leagues in England and then non-league below that. They're the first team to ever go all the way from the non-league to the Premier League. It took them like 13 years to do it too, which is very fast. if people know about like Wrexham, the team Ryan Reynolds runs, they just got into the 4th professional league. And now this Luton team is all the way playing against the big wigs. I almost jinxed them. I actually wrote this down before they had won their game to get promoted, and they went down 1-0, but they came back. So shout out to Luton. That's our soccer talk today.
When you search them on Google, you get a bunch of fireworks.
Because they won.
They won. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Well, that's
Congrats.
cool.
Their nickname is the Hatters.
Yeah, they have a little hat on their logo.
The Mad Hatters.
Little draw hat.
There's the tweet I saw today was like Allen High School in Allen, Texas, where Kyler Murray played, is like 4 times the size of their stadium, and they're playing in the best soccer league in the world. So it's pretty wild.
I kept seeing people tweet about this. I didn't know what it was, so I thought
Yeah.
people were talking about the old Oregon State quarterback Jake Luton. That wasn't the case.
Isn't it Luton?
I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's spelled the same way.
Luton Town.
Ratio of the week. Mina Kimes deleted this one, and I could not find a screenshot anywhere. But someone, called out Mina Kimes because they're misogynistic. We stand with Mina Kimes. She's cool.
Seahawks
she's
fan.
from Seattle. She's a Seahawks fan, just like Jack. But she deleted it. But she ratioed this guy into oblivion. She's been ratioing people all year. She got the Arizona Cardinals pretty good a couple months ago.
I was gonna say, like people have been like owned by Mina Kimes a lot on Twitter. I feel people need to learn. She's good on the Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't check her.
So I couldn't find it. I tried to see if someone wrote an article. No articles written about it. I mean, it was a pretty funny moment. Someone just, was mad about Mina Kimes saying something on ESPN, and then she replied with a screenshot of like one of his dumb tweets from before and said, I'm not listening to you. Something like that. She ended up deleting it because I think she ratioed him too hard.
So we don't know the numbers,
No
but it
numbers.
was a definitive ratio.
Good
It's
work,
like the
Mina Kimes.
1980s like baseball games. Like we don't know the numbers. We just know it was good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, there's quick hits. Segueing, we got basketball to talk about. The NBA Finals are almost upon us. We thought they maybe would have been by the time we recorded this, but the Heat are falling apart at the seams. The Celtics have finally woken up, so that series is 3-3. It's tomorrow. We've got the Kenny and Payton bet, so we'll have the first score on the bet records. One of them will be 0-1, the other one will be 1-0. But we do have one ticket punched to the finals already in the West. The Denver Nuggets did complete their sweep after going 3-0 up on the Lakers. They won in LA, which means we have a true son in the NBA Finals. Micheal Porter Jr., welcome to the NBA Finals. Christian Brown is also there, but we won't talk about that because Kansas. But MPJ, he's in the finals. And Kenny, you did raise a good question, which I think we want to talk about, which is with Micheal Porter Jr.'s career so far, and you guys can just weigh in this however you want. How do you think he has met or maybe exceeded or failed to meet kind of the expectations for him as a pro, considering where he kind of came from out of high school, obviously the lack of playing time at Mizzou, where he got drafted, and now to this point, going to the finals with the Nuggets? How do you evaluate MPJ's life as an NBA basketball player so far?
I mean, from when he was in high school and he was the number 1 recruit, he was an NBA talent. I mean, the guy just had to go to college in order to get to the NBA. And from there, I mean, the guy probably would have been able to be drafted at some point, before, even if he had to play at Mizzou, and probably hurt his stock a little bit with the injuries that piled up. And at the end of the day, I mean, it worked out in his favor, I guess. He got some good money, and he's been playing well in the conference finals, and now he gets to go to the NBA finals. I know there's not really a rich history there for Mizzou in the NBA finals, but one of the more recent guys to make it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll also point out if the Heat make it, we're guaranteed to get a true son ring because Drew Smith would also get a ring, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. I would say, I mean, like at one point, Micheal Porter Jr. was supposed to be like a number 1 overall pick and like be just an all-world player. So from that regard, I guess I would say no. But I mean, you could do a lot worse than the career he's had. It's a shame that he did not get to play more than, I believe it was like 3 or 4 games at Mizzou. but I don't think his career has been a failure by any stretch. I think you'd be lying to yourself if you said that.
In 2020 to 2021 season, he averaged 19 points a game. This past year, he averaged 17 and a half. I know he kind of riddled with injuries in last season, but 61 games in both of those years. And I mean, it's looked good so far for Micheal Porter Jr. And I mean, he's doing it all. He's a 6'10" forward who can shoot from three, and no one can really block him, get a hand in his face, and he can rebound really well. And it's just about staying healthy and really finding his true game. I know there's some like off the court stuff and just injuries that have kind of just been in his way in recent years, but I wouldn't say that he's necessarily a bust, because he was a guy that was supposed to be a first overall pick, possibly, if everything had stayed on course in college. But I mean, I think he's living up to the expectations of being a 14th overall pick.
Yeah, Kenny, when you told me like about this idea, like it did get me thinking with where he did wind up getting drafted, you know, within the lottery, like you said, at the tail end of it, the 14th overall pick. He is very much living up to what you would expect of a late lottery pick. He is very much a contributing starter on a championship level team. And, you know, the things he can offer you, you know, the tools he has as a player, you can see what made him so highly regarded coming out of high school. And like Payton mentioned, you know, this is the most healthy season he's had in his 5-year NBA career. Like, you know, his rookie season, he didn't play because he was injured. His second season, 2019-20, played 55 games, kind of getting adjusted to things. That season, he averaged 19 points. He managed 61, then played just 9 games last season. And now is you know, finally playing 60. He played 62 this year, and we're now seeing really what he can do. You know, yeah, there's things he can improve on. You know, I like the Twitter discourse about the, you know, the ball movement stops with Micheal Porter Jr. You know, he takes a lot of shots. He's definitely not afraid to shoot contested or uncontested, smart or dumb shots, whatever you think they might be. I do have some thoughts of what kind of player he could be if he is not on a team with a creator like Nikola Jokic, and in an offense that the Nuggets run, which is the best offense in the NBA. But you know, he's found his role there. I think he's in a perfect scheme for his game, other than a little bit of the trigger happy shooting. Like, he's 6'9", he can guard a ton of positions, he's switchable, he gets you a good amount of rebounds per game, he can create in this offense. Like, yeah, I think he's very much meeting the expectations that were set for him based on where he got drafted. And yeah, like, he is someone that you do kind of root for because of where he was as a prospect all those years ago. And it does suck. It's like seeing him now as a Mizzou fan, you're almost like, you know, you like
what could have been.
Yeah, yes, exactly. You're like, you love to see, oh, there's a Tiger name attached to the finals, but yeah, you're almost like, oh, you know, I wish it could have been a Sweet 16 run. That Mizzou team was on still made the tournament.
They made the tournament. They were a 9 seed. I want to say they played the 8-9 game against the Florida State team that wound up going to the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
They had Jonte Porter on that team. I believe Cassius Robertson,
rookie Tillman or freshman Tillman,
baby Tillman. Yeah. A lot of talent on that team. Could have, but it was missing its most talented player.
Right. Well, I think he played in the Florida State game.
He did. He did not play well.
They rushed him back.
He played in the SEC tournament too. Didn't play well.
Yeah.
And even in those like limited games, those 3 or 4 games he actually got to play in, I mean, he still made such a change to Mizzou athletics in general. I mean, all these athletes used to live in South Hall, where we lived our freshman year. After Micheal Porter Jr., all this hype that came in with the top recruit in the nation. No, you know, athlete like the football players, basketball players, the freshmen, they don't live there anymore. I mean, they're not around these regular students, because that's how much he changed, you know, Mizzou sports.
I will say, I mean, we had a friend of the show, Jack Sarkis. I mean, he talked about how, like, the state, I mean, they sold out the arena after going like 8-22 or something the year before, the last year of Kim Anderson. They sold out the arena just because Micheal Porter Jr., the Porters, and all of them were there in Konzo's first season. I mean, that's how big of a deal this guy was. I would say the only comparable player in just the level of hype while we were there is definitely Luther Burden. Like, no basketball player has come close to that.
Yeah, you throw like Dorial Green Beckham in there for football.
Amari Davis for basketball this 2 years ago.
By
now
far
at Tampa.
the most
Connor.
memorable player ever.
Yeah.
Who could forget his unforgettable 9-for-9 game against Ole Miss?
Spectacular. Yeah,
That
no,
team was
it's
great.
it's pretty fun, and like it's interesting, like especially in college basketball. I love that still happens in an era where you have things like the G League Ignite, the Overtime Elite, all these other leagues you can go play. You still have like a Micheal Porter Jr., a Pat Baldwin, who same kind of story, went to UW Milwaukee and barely played because he was injured, got drafted way late. Like those stories are fun, and the fact Mizzou got to be at the center of that, and now it might come full circle. He might get a ring. And fans can just continue to brag. He did go to the school. That's a fact. Banners fly forever. They should put
Where
that up in the rafters.
champions are made. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Up the True Sun title. This is straight off Moon Choi's website.
Okay.
Is that you have to graduate within 5 years at Mizzou.
Just come back and get his degree.
Okay.
It's a lie, but
Hashtag. Oh, okay. Well,
I said Moon Choi's website. Why would that be a thing?
I figured you just meant Mizzou or something. I don't. It's Moon Choi runs the school.
Yeah.
Friend of the show, by the way.
Yeah, friend of the show.
Maybe we'll have him back on one day.
We might.
He said he would come on again.
Do you think?
did.
All right, here, Melo question: if Micheal Porter Jr. wins a title, should they put a banner in Mizzou Arena? Retire his
Yes.
number. Should they retire his number if he wins a championship with the Nuggets?
No, they should just.
No, that doesn't make any sense.
They should just hang a banner that says Micheal Porter Jr. won an NBA, especially if he won Finals MVP. Micheal Porter Jr. Finals MVP.
The third option
Period.
off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the
Well, he's not like he's a weird. I don't watch enough Nuggets basketball before.
he's
the
definitely
playoffs.
not. Yeah, like scoring. His scoring is just so weird because like he is told kind of just to kind of stand around the perimeter and be the guy that just shoots just shoots the threes because they know he'll do it.
Mhm.
It's very funny. Like he's the trigger happy Micheal Porter memes are pretty funny. The ball movement stops at Porter. That's the only way it should be. That's what Dennis Gates would have wanted if he was coaching Micheal Porter Jr.
He still could.
Still could.
Yeah, still an
Future-
option out there.
Future Bucks head coach Dennis
Quite
Gates.
literally could not.
Okay. Should we do the Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, we can do it.
Okay.
I guess so.
We wanted to end things with a little ranking. Just because, it's kind of our first podcast edition show, and I mentioned we're all
There's
Mizzou
not a
graduates.
ton of Mizzou news right now.
Yeah, there's not a whole
Fun
bunch. Well,
stuff.
obviously, we'll go along with football and all that when all that kind of begins to heat up. But
Basketball.
we all went to Mizzou, and so we were going to do just a little draft of our favorite Mizzou moments from our time at the school, sports-wise. I have to get my wheel to side. Hang on.
Are we doing it one from each year?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
we're doing 19, 20, 21, 22,
22.
23.
Yeah.
Okay, so like the 22-23 season then.
Yes. So you're doing one from each year that you were at Mizzou.
Okay.
Yeah. 2019 and
Tier
20
4.
can kind of be combined because of it was COVID, but
Okay, good. I'm going to do that.
yeah. All right. I'm spinning the wheel. I don't think the effect sounds come through, but it is spinning.
It's not.
And Kenny, you're first.
Okay, the first
based-
one.
based on the wheel.
So this is going to be 2019-2020 year.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to pull up the schedule.
Oh, man.
'Cause I need to find the exact date when this game happened in the Mizzou baseball season.
Really?
Oh,
You're
yes.
going Mizzou
Kenny-
baseball.
Kenny
Go
mentioned
Mizzou
this.
baseball.
Kenny mentioned
Yeah.
this would be his to me.
Let's see if I can find it. Okay. Northern Illinois Mizzou baseball, Wednesday, March 11th, 2020. Mizzou baseball hit a walk-off in the 12th inning. Do you want to guess who hit it? Payton.
Was it Pete? Was it Pete?
It was not Pete.
Was it one of the Petersons?
No. Oh, it was one of the Petersons. Yes.
Ben Peterson.
No, it was Clayton Peterson.
Dang it.
So he hit a walk-off single that scored Swanger and Luke Mann. Look at that. Oh, actually,
Ah.
Swanger did not score. Luke Mann scored. The Tigers won 3-2 over Northern Illinois. That was the last game that Mizzou won before everything was canceled due to COVID-19 in the pandemic.
That was one of the last sporting, because it ended so late. It was one of the last sporting events, period, that just happened. Before
They
the
never came
shutdown.
back.
I
No more
remember
sports.
sitting there at the game, and the NBA suspended its season while we were at that game. You were calling it. I was at it with a couple friends. That's a good pick, actually. That is a fun one. And then, are we just going to me now?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, Payton, you go second.
Okay, so since this is 19 and 20, does that mean the 2020 football season would be included in this?
No, because that would be your sophomore year. So do everything your
Okay,
freshman year.
I figured. Okay, mine has to be then. I'll give an honorable mention to Kelly Bryant's game against West Virginia in football, because that game made me fall in love with Mizzou football, unfortunately. But I have to go with the game where Mizzou was just getting killed by Georgia in basketball, and then they brought it back, and Nico Reed, Nico, I never get it. Nico Reed.
No, it's Reed Nico. I thought you were
Nico.
trolling.
I always forget, because there's a corner too that's named Nico Reed. He blocked Anthony Edwards, and Mizzou won. Like, this was the one year that Anthony Edwards was there. After the game, Anthony Edwards trolled the student section because he was mad. That was a great game. There weren't many great moments from our freshman year. That was one of them.
Yeah. Well said. That was one of mine I was thinking of. I was doing that game also for KCOU. That was a fun one. Okay. 2019, 20. You know what? Payton, I will mention the one that you had said, or that you'd mentioned briefly with Kelly Bryant. I'll say the first Mizzou football game, being there with SEC Nation and getting Tim Tebow's attention with a Living Like Larry the Lobster poster that had Larry Roundtree's face put over it. I'll do that one. So I'll just do Mizzou football, whatever the score was against West Virginia.
I thought that was so cool that SEC Nation was there. I was like, geez, man, I actually go to like a big time school. Then SEC Nation did not come back.
They ghosted.
Paul Feinbaum wasn't there
after the Georgia one.
He was sick.
Yeah, no.
He didn't get to go.
Well, why would they come there after the performance they put up against Auburn? But yeah.
Okay. So are we doing Snake, or is it my turn again?
We can just go you, Kenny.
All right. I got the 2020 football season. I'm taking this one. I think Payton might have been thinking it too, but Mizzou football beating LSU at home, beating the reigning national champions at home was a big deal. Got the, I think it was offensive coordinator or might have been the defensive coordinator for LSU fired after that game or in the following weeks. So that was a big deal for Mizzou football that year.
Geez, did Bo Pelini? I remember Bo Pelini was their DC that year. I mean, they were the reigning champs. It was like a skeleton crew of the reigning champs, but that was still a really cool one.
That was a good one.
Oh man, now I have to think. The basketball.
You go to the Arkansas game.
Yeah, I was thinking that the Arkansas game. The basketball team was really good that year. Well, not really good, but like good that year. Part of me wants to pick Mizzou weathering a late comeback from Alabama in basketball and getting the top 10 ranking. But I am going to go with the Arkansas game because, my God, if you would have told me what Connor Bazelak became after that game, I would have thought you were lying to me, because he just clutched up in the fourth quarter. That game-winning drive was so clinical that I really thought, I was like, wow, Mizzou's like got a head coach and everything. I mean, it was 52-50? 52-50, I think. What a game. That's probably second or third behind the LSU game and what my pick next round will be in Mizzou football games.
Okay. You guys are tough. You're giving me, you're limiting my choices. I wanted my 1-1. If I didn't have to pick by year, would have been the LSU one, Kenny. So that's a good pick. I think I'm gonna go with I'll stay in basketball. I'll go the Xavier Pinson dropping 36 against TCU. They get that overtime win.
That was a good game
that season, and then they made the tournament. I'll go with that one. They beat TCU. They were like 12th in the country, trying to avoid an upset. They got the top 10 ranking, like Payton mentioned. They made the tournament. That was insane. I'll go that one.
And Mark Smith was really bad in that game.
Yeah, they wouldn't have needed overtime if Mark Smith didn't shoot like 1 for 20.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Kenny, back to you.
So 2021 Mizzou football season. I mean, Payton might have been thinking this one too, but I'm going to say Mizzou beating Florida at home with the 2-point conversion in overtime, 24-23. The Tigers clinched bowl eligibility, and everyone went berserk. I mean, that was just a crazy moment. They got they fired Florida's coach the next day, or Florida fired their head coach the next day, Dan Mullen, and Drinkwitz came out acting like he was Darth Vader. So overall, just good win for the Tigers in that one.
That was comical when he did that.
Okay, we have to pick a different one because that's like the only one from my junior year that I had that is a good memory from athletics.
You can copy it if you want to. I mean, there's nothing against it.
I would pick that one again, but I'll be different. I'll just keep the train rolling, I guess. As soon as I can think of something else good that happened junior year in Mizzou athletics.
While you're thinking, can I change my freshman year one?
To what? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to change it to Rennell Perkins' 100-yard pick six against South Carolina. That was epic.
Oh, that is a great pick.
I'm changing it to that one.
A memory. I lost my voice mid pick six.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
He caught it like right in front of us where we were standing and just sprinted back. And we were like, oh. And then that's when I was like, wow, what could this team be? I'm bragging to all my friends. Like, yeah, it was.
Gosh, that South Carolina team beat Georgia that year too. This was a dreadful year. I'm going to go, good luck, Knowlton. I guess I'm going to go with the Auburn game in basketball because even though they lost, it was very hype. 53-52. That was a Konzo ball game and a half. But that was a good game. It was a great game. I have fond memories of that. The city of Columbia did not show up, but
yeah, the city of Columbia did not show up, but the students did.
It's like the Oakland days.
I have mine from 2021-22, that school year. I'm going to do an upset of number one when the Mizzou women's basketball team beat South Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
We were all on winter break, and I was watching it back at home in front of my like tiny kitchen TV, just like losing my mind because they barely pulled off an upset. It was 70-69 in overtime, and they won. And then still ended that year very disappointingly, but had the win over the eventual national champions. And that was like one of maybe 2 losses that season for them. So there you go.
Yeah, it was 2 losses.
That was a great moment.
So we're up to 2022-23 now.
Yes.
So our senior year at Mizzou. Very good year for sports. I'm going to move into basketball. I haven't chosen a basketball game yet. I got Mizzou over Arkansas at home in January of last season. Just such an electric game. I know Mizzou opened as the favorites in that game, but Arkansas was ranked. And I mean, anytime you beat Arkansas is a good feeling. Gets those Razorback fans pretty upset about themselves because they think Mizzou is the worst thing in the world. And Mizzou fans could care
Not
less.
a rivalry, though.
Not a rivalry, though.
Avenged a loss, too.
It did.
An earlier loss where Mizzou kind of blew a lead in Fayetteville.
Oh, not kind of. They blew it. They blew that lead.
Yeah, they were up 17 and lost. That's a blew it.
So I got that game. That'll be my first basketball game, my only basketball game, and those are my 4.
Okay.
It's interesting that I kind of didn't even think of that being Kenny's like first basketball game. I guess there's so many basketball games, but I definitely came out of it liking the basketball team more than I like the football team. There's a lot of good moments from this year, actually. Also, I'm gonna change my pick from junior year to Kiki Chisholm's touchdown catch in the Armed Forces Bowl at the end of the game. That was insanely cool. I wish my brain would have just shut off after that. Knowlton, I know you probably don't remember this very much, but the Georgia game is very, very, very up there for me. I'm gonna go the Mississippi State basketball game though, because that was a game where it was like Mizzou was just hanging on by a thread. They never led by more than 4 Nick Honor just like this nasty step back, deep three. Oh, wait, no. Hold on. DeAndre Golston's buzzer beater.
Dang it. I was hoping you weren't going to notice that.
And not the UCF one, the Tennessee one. That was so...
Dang it, Payton.
Mizzou had like a 19-point lead. The refs called like 6 fouls in 2 minutes. Mizzou blows it. They just hang around. They chip away at the league. Vescovi chokes 2 free throws. Well, there was a lane violation on one, but he missed it. That was very hype. And also another shout out to the SEC tournament game against Tennessee. That was another like war that Mizzou won. But I'm gonna go the Golston buzzer beater.
All right, I'm gonna take the one that you were going to take before you took the one that I wanted. I will take the Nick Honor shot versus Mississippi State. That was a game that, in the moment, like the moment of that season, they had just lost a tough battle to a really good A&M team. And then I was like, I had a feeling they needed to split the A&M and Mississippi State kind of weekend, because I think that was a Thursday and a Saturday, and then to go out and beat Mississippi State in that fashion, overcome some adversity, have another thrilling late heroic shot, and to be Nick Honor, that was nasty. Honorable mention to Sternberg's bad beat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
crazy. Okay, so yeah, we'll tweet those. We have the graphics department making a little graphic as we speak, so we'll have all those tweeted. And yeah,
wait,
boys.
It wouldn't be a Mizzou episode if we didn't talk about the most terrible moment we witnessed in the Athletics while we were there.
Just one each. Mine
is unequivocally Cody Schrader getting tackled at the one, immediately followed up by Micheal Walters' false start. And then later in that game, Micheal Walters' hands to the face. Micheal Walters against Georgia, basically.
Kenny, you got one off the bat?
Yeah, I mean, the first one I would say is just Harrison Mevis missing that field goal at Auburn. I mean, it was a chip shot. I had my article ready. I was done. I just had it ready that Harrison Mevis, carried, they just rode on Harrison Mevis's wings to victory, ended up going to overtime. And I mean, that was just chaos. It was just
should have won that game.
Pete.
That too. Oh my God.
For Pete's sake.
For Pete's sake.
For Pete's sake.
Pete dropping the ball was bad. The one that I go to immediately, weirdly, I feel like I can think of something better. Oh, no, you know what? The one I have to pick is the just kind of collapse and loss to Oklahoma in the first round of March Madness in 2021. That was terrible. It's taken me a really long time to appreciate how good Austin Reeves is now in the NBA because of how angry he made me that day.
Him and Manick.
And Brady Manick
just destroyed Mizzou.
And credit to Austin Reeves for the career he's started to make for himself. I'll give him all the praise, but he still I can't bring myself to just like him all the way as a player because of that. The only other one too, sticking in basketball, this is just a random game, but I want to know if you guys remember this. I was at this game. I don't know if you boys were, but it was I think it was just our freshman year, one of the first Mizzou sporting basketball game, or at least men's basketball games I ever went to. They lost to Charleston Southern by 20 or something.
I was not there, but I do remember declining to go to that game because I was doing something else.
I was at this game and I was just like, and I love college basketball just in general. And so I was just like, this is the team that I have to go watch. This is my college basketball team now. It was awful.
The worst upset I saw, you guys had left this one because you had pickup basketball. The Mizzou UMKC game junior year.
That was bad.
That just had me astounded. I was so upset after that one.
Yeah. That was tough. Well, I think that'll do it. That'll do it, fellas. First podcast edition show. No F-bombs dropped. Well done. And
you can keep it off the explicit.
Yeah, there we go. Keep the explicit on check. No, so we'll be everyone's voice on Bleav for the both good, bad, and ugly Mizzou sports moments going forward. You can add those lists to your memories right along with us. So we hope everyone enjoyed. We'll be doing 2-a-week stuff. We'll have interviews, so much more, keeping the quick hit segments. alive, and yeah, some plenty of good content to come. So keep it here. You can listen to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We'll upload this to YouTube now. I have to get used to seeing my ugly mug in addition to hearing my voice. So we'll see. All right, that'll do it for the Unwritten Rule. We'll be back. You'll next hear us on Friday. I got to get used to this upload schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mondays and Fridays.
We got a good interview coming up this week. I'm not going to reveal it just yet, but yeah, Mondays and Fridays you'll hear us. So you'll hear us on Friday, and hope everyone has a fun and safe rest of their week. See you Friday.